Welcome back to the Virtually Viking Radio Show. I am your host, Sunshine Neely from Recruitment, and today we are going to discuss all things advising with Dr. Arwan. So, thank you for joining us today.
Glad to be
And
here.
yes, well, I am excited to have you and to talk more about advising and also to talk a little bit about disability services that we offer here at the college. So, the first thing I guess I want to talk about are what are some of your primary responsibilities as the Assistant Director of Academic Advising?
Well, the short answer is that I pitch in where needed, but basically assist the dean with things like student with disabilities on all three campuses and wherever I need to head up per her instructions. I also am responsible for the operations of advising here at the Orange Park campus as the office manager. So I hold a weekly calendar meeting where we discuss things that are going on with advising and to look ahead at least for the week or near future, as well as inviting other members of the college to our meetings so as to be able to be updated on a real-time basis of things that are going on so that we can more effectively communicate to our students.
Definitely. That's important. Keeping everything organized and flowing and making sure that, we're on top of things and we're servicing our students. So great, great job. Now, how does the academic advising department support students in achieving their academic goals?
Well, that's really what we're about. We help and prod and we coach and mentor students hopefully to their destination, realizing that most adults choose two or three different majors before they actually settle on anything. So we do it mainly by questions, like what do you see yourself doing in the near future? Have you done the research on that major and how to get there? Have you contacted the university or college that you're going to? We also ask the students to use our career services if needed. Um, and we try to find out and we basically try to be a partner in their achieving their goals. So those things that they might not be aware of or even know what to ask, we kind of step in by asking questions of our own so as to be able to better guide them. And then once we have a picture of what they want to do and some what other coursework they may have done, whether they were doing enrollment in AP or IB or ACE or whatever, or transfer student, we then select classes that align them along their path, and as well as discussing the differences between the AA and the AS. A lot of people don't realize the difference between the two. In fact, we have some students whose parents are have them under one impression about the AA, and so we have to, make sure that they know that the AA is the transfer degree, and that's the degree that they want if they want to get a bachelor's, and along those lines.
Yes, and that's good. I'm glad I on the when I'm out recruiting, I run into that a lot where students don't really understand the difference between the AS and the AA. And I actually was talking to a parent last week that was adamant about the AS, being a transferable degree. And I was like, yeah, it can be, but you're gonna need some extra courses. So got it's best to
Right.
go with that AA. But I did, advise them to speak with academic advising to make sure that they were on the right track. And then you mentioned also about it's more of a partnership, which I love because the student has a responsibility, and I believe the college and your department also has a responsibility. And which is a partnership to make sure that the student is on the right track, they're doing what they need to do, because I remember being in college many, many years ago. And I didn't visit, sadly, I did not visit the academic advising office as often as I should have. And I ended up taking a lot of unnecessary classes. But had I taken advantage of advising, I would not have fallen into that area. So I like that partnership. Now, what are like some common challenges that students face with academic planning? Do you see there's a struggle to get students to come, or they don't really want to receive the information?
Well, it's funny you followed up with that question because I was actually going to piggyback on your the comments of what I said in that we get some students who think, just to finish up and close the loop on that um, we get some students who think that the AS is associative science, so if they want to major in biology, they have to do associative science. So it's good that you have them come in to see us. The one of the main challenges is that having them to come and see us, having them to one of the frustrating things that I have is students that come to see us and during their initial advising or at any point, and they don't even have pencil or paper. And
Oh,
sometimes because I know that it's not going to stick, and
right.
then so I'm always impressed by those students who have a journal or an agenda, who are jotting down things and questions to ask, but getting the students to take notes as well as getting them to come back. We like for them to come back every semester. They don't have to, but we have students like I have had one today who's about halfway done with their AA, but again, not knowing the difference between the AA and the AS,
Mhm.
because she hadn't come in. She was listening to her friends or her parents, and everybody means well, and that's fine. But they should, getting them to come in and chat with us, and like we were talking about before, it's a partnership. We we look good when the student look good, and we like looking good. So
Ex- Yes, exactly. I definitely like that. Um, Now I know that a lot of students may not know because it's college is a lot different from high school or and different things like that. So concerning disability services, can you describe the services provided by the Disability Service Office at St. John's River State College?
yeah, and that's a good point that you just naturally touched on in your question there. That a lot of students and parents think that because they have accommodations in high school, it automatically
Right.
transfers over to college, and it doesn't. They have to self-identify, and they are unaware that their 504 or their IEP, for example, those are K-12 documents. Those
Right.
are not theoretically college level documents that we use, but I should say we can use the 501 and the IEP, and we normally do that. But in those cases where more information is needed because of a requested accommodation, then the student might be asked to produce the diagnosis from from which that IEP or 504 was based on, or the diagnosis of their psychologist or doctor, so as to be able to better um, work with them with as far as accommodations. But yes, there's a lot of misconceptions about students with disability. Even on the faculty side, a lot of them
Mm-hmm.
think that we just blanketly give accommodations, and we do not. In
Right.
fact, I head up another one of my duties is to head up a weekly student with disabilities coordinators meeting, in which we take those hard things like a student requesting an accommodation that we don't normally give, or that we give out on a case by case basis. Well, we review each of those cases. We review the documentation, and we have input from the students and or the faculty as well when need be, and we come up with a plan. And sometimes it doesn't mean that the student's going to get everything that they want.
Right. Yeah. So and that's important. Now you did mention self-identify. And so for our listeners that are not familiar with that term, what does that mean?
So it means that if a student has a disability, he or she need needs to come by our offices and ask to speak to one of the disability service coordinators on that campus, and then to let that disability service coordinator know their their disability. Um, and with that, we do an interview, an observation, and we review the documentation. So they need to come with expecting that process and come with their documentation, because we're going to ask a lot of questions, and um, we're and along those lines. Though, let me say too that if a parent is accompanying their student and or they want to call us and ask questions about their student, they need to have a release of information form on file. And I
Yes.
always tell the parents that we can't even tell them what library book their student has checked out without that release of information. And the common retort is, well, she's a minor. Well, I had to get one too with my daughter, and I work here. So um, but yeah, is there's a lot of misconception, but the self-identifying is the main piece. That's what gets the wheel going.
Right. And like you said earlier, that a lot of parents and students believe that it just transfers from high school to college, and that is not necessarily that is not the case. So
Right,
they do have to self-identify and let you all know um what's going on, and then you can then make a plan and take action to assist the student. And ultimately it's to help them be successful.
exactly. We want to
Yes.
measure what the student knows. We don't want to measure what the disability how the disability constrains them, or we want to give them every access that we possibly can to the education that everyone else gets.
Correct, correct. Now, talking about supporting the student and helping the student be successful, how does your department collaborate with faculty and staff to support student success across campus?
Well, that's a very important question. We are also kind of like brokers of information and of services.
Hmm.
So depending on the need of the student, or depending on what comes out of our initial advising session or the visit that the student is there for, we will um, we will contact the instructor for those cases, whether it's a complaint or someone that doesn't understand the process of meeting with the instructor during their office hours, or uh, withdrawing from a class, or anything that has to do with their education, specifically as it relates to them in that semester, we try to help them with, whether it's, a lot of people don't realize that the Student Service Center is a big part of education. I'm just using
Hmm.
it as an example. So some students that struggle, um, they they do better once they're connected with the Student Service Center, and know that they can make friends and whatnot. A lot of students nowadays, they, even if the friends are next to them, they're texting. Well, uh, that's the beauty of the Student Service Center. You find people there that are like-minded, and for those people who need that background noise, 'cause sometimes I do too, it's there. And we do have an ombuds service where the student can check in with somebody to help them keep accountable to their educational goals and their journey.
Yes, and I love that the college has adapted the ombuds, because it's just like you said, another it's almost like another blanket of security for the students to help them be, successful. So we have your department, the ombuds, which is in your department, and then other resources around campus to help students be successful. Because ultimately, like you said, we want the student to look good because we like to look good as
That's
well.
right.
So we're definitely going to do what we can to help the student be successful. Now, with the ongoing resources that we have, and the things that we offer, how has technology impacted the way we provide advising and support to students?
Well, technology is a big part of what we do, from taking notes related to the visits that we have to our sign-in system. We're in the process now of reviewing slash trying out a new software that's going to enable the student to have more control over meeting us, um, and selecting their preferred meeting times. And we technology is a big portion of what we do. We wouldn't be able to see the students that we do see if it weren't for technology. For
Technology.
example, if you see a student in Palaca, but um, that student happens to be on our campus, well, referring to the notes that are in our system, we already have the context and the background to help them wherever they are at Sierra State.
That's awesome. Now, you also, I believe you offer, like, do you do Zoom as well with students as far as advising appointments?
We do Zoom, we do Teams.
Teams.
Um, we depending on what it is, we can do phone. So
Hmm.
we try to meet the student
Where they are.
where they are in their needs. But you know, that's another good point. Some people want to do their initial advising session on a phone.
Yeah.
Well, they're not going to be able to see everything, and they may not even be able to register.
Right.
So they need to make the if they just like going to the bank, you make room in your day to go to the bank or to the grocery store. You need to make prioritizing. Need to make the effort of prioritizing what you need for your education success, and come in to see us.
Definitely. I like that. And it's almost like building a relationship. So the first meeting, we should not, possibly let's meet face to face. Let's build that relationship, build that rapport so that you all can get to know the student and the student can get to know you. And as the relationship flourishes, then we could possibly do a phone, or
Right.
Zoom and things like that. So I definitely understand that. Now, Dr. Arwan, what do you find most rewarding about the work that you do here at St. John's River State College?
Well, my my journey on my education in my career has taught me that students or people in general want to have a better life for themselves. They want to pursue those things. So I've met people who are just wanted to drive the van for AT&T, or they want to be a plumber, or they want to be an electrician, or wanting to be an electrical engineer, or wanting to, um, um, uh, you know, be a lawyer, whatever it is. I enjoy being able to know that I help that student. So when I see them on LinkedIn or on Facebook, not on Facebook a lot, but and when I see them in the grocery store or their parents in the grocery store, and they're telling me about what their student is doing, and they even have follow-up questions about something that they might be going through at the follow-on institution. Seeing people out in the community. The thing I love about state colleges is that we are, still, and as President Pickens has said, we still hold true to the community college
Yeah.
mission. So when we're out in the public, and I love being in the same community as the Orange Park campus, we see different students and coming up, people coming over to you at dinner or
Yeah.
at church. Um, sometimes it's kind of awkward when you're in a prayer or you're trying to do something. But but I understand that. So, but it's just the whole thing about being an integral part of that student's community.
Yeah.
That's very rewarding, and I love seeing them walk across the stage. I think that's the highlight of our existence here.
Yes, I definitely have to agree with you. Um, Whether it's I used to work in adult education, and so that was the highlight, seeing those students walk across that stage, and when you know how hard they've worked and how far they've come, and then now, even now, recruiting students and then seeing them at graduation, it's
Right.
like, oh, I remember you, and knowing that you had, just a small part in their success and helping them become the adult or the individual that they have become. And you're right. I'm in Palaca and you're in Orange Park, but I do love the fact that I work in this area and I'm able to give back to my community, and I see students in church and the grocery store everywhere, and they know you and they're coming back with updates. So that's really definitely the most rewarding part of working here at St. John's River State College. Now, the last question before we wrap up. So, what advice would you give future students regarding taking advantage of their advising appointments and the support services that we offer here?
Well, I'll go back even a little bit further in if and this is to the parents and the students. As much as possible, the student wants to be doing algebra or close to it in the seventh and eighth grade. They want
Yes,
to be prepared to so that in the high school they can, be prepared then to come to college on a college level. That's the
level.
main thing, being on the college level. So my advice to students when they come, having done that, is to also do research on their major, realizing that
Hmm.
it may their idea of what they want to be may change. They're like I said, the average adult changes their mind several times, and that's fine. Um, or having an idea of what career that they want to go to. Um, and always start out with the end in mind. If it's to be the president of the United States or if it's to be a PhD, what does that college or university wants you to have upon entering that PhD program or EDD program? Or what does that college want you to have for that medical degree?
Hmm.
So those things being researched, coming prepared to take notes, and being open to being questioned. Don't feel like that we're putting you on the spot, or even not necessarily feeling like you're underprepared, because it's not a matter of being underprepared or that we're making you think that you should have known more than you do, and it's not that. We don't know what you don't know, and we don't know what you want to know. So
Right,
if we're asking questions, um, then it's like the Socratic method. You learn by asking questions, and you can usually come to an answer by asking questions. So
right.
if we ask you a question, just roll with it and answer it to the best of your ability, and help us to help you.
Right, definitely. Well, Dr. Arwan, thank you for joining us today and giving us an insight on the academic advising as well as the disability services that we offer here at St. John's River State College.
It's
Um,
my pleasure.
Thank you. And so, thank you guys for tuning in to Virtually Viking, your go to source for all things St. John's River State College. We hope today's discussion has inspired you to take the next step in your educational journey with us. Remember, whether you're looking to start a new career, advance in your current one, or simply explore new subjects, SJR State has the resources and support that you need. Until next time, remember, stay curious, stay motivated, and as always, go Vikings.